everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm so happy to have all of you here. Please say hello to us in the chat. Let us know where you're from, where you're joining us from at this moment. Hello, Pao. Hello to Nati. Thank you for joining us today. Everybody, please greet each other in the chat and let us know where you're joining us from. I'm so happy to be here with you today. This month, I think, is a very important topic. If you watched last month's webinar, we discussed a little bit about using AI tools to help us with our teaching practices. And this month, we're going to continue with the topic of AI, but this time we're going to look at it in the context of improving our English. So thank you to all of us who are joining now. Hi, Chelsea. Thank you for being here. Hi, Alicia. Hello, Florencia from Argentina. Hello, Jenny from Bolivia. Nice to see you. Hello, Yolanda from Bolivia as well. Thank you guys for being here. Anita from Peru. Thank you for joining us today. I'm happy to have you here and read your comments and interact with you during this webinar. So let's get started then with today's topic, which is, as I mentioned, level up your English, AI tools for EFL teachers and students. So to start today, I would like to ask you this question, and if you could please respond in the chat. On a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you right now with using AI? So 1 means you are extremely uncomfortable, and 10 means you are extremely comfortable. Please tell us in the chat, how do you feel about using AI? How comfortable are you with it? Yeah, so Dennis tells us 8. Claudia says 5. Good. The rest of you, how do you feel? How do you feel about using AI? It's something quite new for a lot of us, right? Miriam says 10. Awesome. That's great, Miriam. So I'll be looking forward to your comments in this session. Alicia 6, Florencia 5. Chelsea 6, Yolanda 8. Good job, guys. Thank you. Okay, so it seems to me that quite a few of you are relatively comfortable with AI, despite the fact that it's a relatively new tool for us to use. So as we go through this webinar today, I'd like you to please interact and let us know what other tools you have used related to the different aspects of the English language that we will be looking at today. Okay, so we're going to look at different components of the English language: grammar, vocabulary, speaking, listening, reading, and writing, and look at some platforms that can help us to work on those particular areas or skills of the language. It's very important for all of us to continue to improve our English. Why? Well, for many reasons, but the primary reason is for our students, right? If we can continue to always improve our own English, then we can provide more rich input for our students. And that in turn becomes a tool that they can use to improve their own English. So it's very important for us to consistently strive to get a better English. Okay. I'm sure that many of you have worked with chatbots. Chatbots, like the most common one being ChatGPT, right? One of the first ones I think that we got introduced to is ChatGPT. So what is a chatbot exactly? A chatbot is a program that simulates human conversation, allowing users to interact with it through text or voice. It's almost like you're chatting with someone, right? Some of the most popular and used chatbots are, like we mentioned, ChatGPT, Meta AI, Google Gemini, DeepSeek, Claude, Poe, Microsoft Copilot, Perplexity, and there are many others. It seems like every day there is a new chatbot. Which of these or any others have you worked with? Let us know in the chat. What chatbots do you converse with on a regular basis? Which ones do you prefer? We have Gamma. Thank you, Miriam. Also, that's another one. Any others that you guys work with? Chatbots are a good tool to answer specific questions about the language, but keep in mind that they are not foolproof. What do we mean by foolproof? It means that they do make mistakes sometimes. ChatGPT makes a lot of mistakes. I've realized that it makes mistakes. And you can tell the chatbot, hey, this is not right. And then they say, oh, thank you for the correction, right? So we know that these tools, while they are useful, they are not always foolproof. They're not always perfect, right? Okay, you guys are mentioning some more grok. Thank you. Armando mentions in the chat. Florencia says perplexity and ChatGPT. Yolanda says ChatGPT voice tool for having your students practice speaking. That's great. Yes, we'll see some voice tools in a little bit. Jenny, ChatGPT, perplexity, Gamma, Gemini, good. Karen, thank you for being here. ChatGPT and Gemini. Miriam says napkin AI. There are so many of them, and each one is similar, right? They're very similar to each other, but you might have your own personal preference. As you experiment with them, you can decide which one you like the best for whatever you want it to do. Okay. So today's focus, like I mentioned, is leveling up your English through AI. So these are tools I'm going to present to you that you can use as English teachers to improve your own English, and your students can also use, and you can have them use as part of your class curriculum or as extra practice or whatever the case may be. Okay, so we're going to start specifically with grammar. This tool and all the other tools that I'm going to present to you all offer a free version. Most of them also offer a paid version, which obviously has more features. But the ones that I'm going to present to you, I chose specifically because they do offer a free version and because the free version is worth it. It's worth your time. Okay, so this first one is called Grammar Track. And as you can see at the top of the screen, for each one of these tools, I mention what it is for. I give you the name of the tool and also the web address for you to access it, right? So we see here just a snapshot of the interface, what this tool looks like. This tool offers more than 6,500 practical exercises across 51 different grammar topics. It is specifically to improve grammar. The AI in this tool analyzes performance to tailor the experience, focusing on areas where you need more practice specifically. It provides immediate feedback, which is a feature of many of these AI platforms. They give you immediate feedback. The grammar rules are explained with real-world context to help you understand the why behind the usage, which promotes a deeper learning and not memorization. This is very important. Why is this important? Because if we are teaching in our classes in a communicative way, right? We should be teaching communicatively. We need to have platforms that support that. And in my research for this webinar, I looked through dozens of platforms out there. And let me tell you something. What I have noticed about the ones that exist specifically for grammar is that a lot of them are based strictly on translation. Translation from the first language to the second language and vice versa, right? But this is not how we're teaching in our classes anymore. So it's very important that we choose AI tools that support the ways that we teach in our class. So that's why I chose to share this one with you, precisely because the explanation behind the grammar is done through real-world contexts, which is how we should be teaching, right? This platform also offers comprehensive dashboards that show your progress, your strengths, and your areas needing improvement. So it's very guided. It helps you to really focus on the parts of your grammar that need improvement, your grammar or your students' grammar that need improvement, okay? Yes, thank you for those of us who are just joining us. Milagros, thank you for joining us. Also, Ricia, thank you for joining us in Maryland. Okay. Continuing, there are also several AI platforms that offer a support in vocabulary. And this first one that I'm going to show you that focuses on vocabulary, the name, when I first saw the name of it, to be honest, it turned me off. I said, memorize. Why would you memorize? We don't memorize vocabulary, right? We internalize words. But then as I started to explore the platform, I realized that it's actually quite useful. So here we have this one that's for vocabulary. It's called Memrise. We see a screenshot here. Now, why do we see some Spanish on this screenshot? Because this particular platform asks us, what is our first language? Yeah, so we have to give it our first language. So because this is RELO Andes and we are working in a region that is predominantly Spanish speaking, I put Spanish as my first language. What language do you want to learn? It asks you, and then I put English. So that's why we see this little phrase in Spanish at the top of the image there. Okay, it uses a mix of AI personalization, multimedia, and cognitive science techniques to help learners internalize vocabulary. And this is what I like about this platform, because it isn't memorization, actually. It's actually internalization of vocabulary. It integrates short videos of native speakers using the target vocabulary naturally. And if we remember everything we have learned about language acquisition, we know that we acquire language naturally in context. So by providing vocabulary in context in a natural setting with native speakers, we are doing something that is good for the brain as far as language acquisition goes, right? The lessons are structured like games. With points, you have streaks and leaderboards. Streaks, if you're not aware of that term, streak means when you get something correct several times in a row. You have a streak of 5 correct answers, for example. Yeah? And then teachers, you can create custom word lists and share them with your students. So we can use this almost like an LMS, right? In addition to our class, we can use Memrise as a platform for our students to help them to practice the vocabulary that we have been working on in our books or in our materials in the class. Right? You can design a custom vocabulary list for your students to work with, and this platform will create activities for you using your vocabulary list that you input into the platform. So that's definitely a benefit for teachers and can add a special component to your class. Okay. Another example of a platform that focuses specifically on vocabulary is Vocabs AI, as you can see right here. Okay, in this one, it seems a little bit more simplistic than other platforms that we've seen, but it also serves a good purpose. So this generates individualized vocabulary lists that align with each learner's goals and proficiency, ensuring that the content is relevant and targeted. So let's just say, for example, that I want to work on medical English, or I want to work on legal English or business English or whatever, or words about the environment or whatever I choose. I can have the platform design for me a list of vocabulary related to that particular topic. The learners engage with diverse testing formats designed to solidify vocabulary in an engaging way. So they use different types of styles, right, to test the vocabulary. And it also provides, like many other platforms, analytics that allow users to monitor vocabulary growth, retention rates, and learning patterns. This is very interesting because it really allows us to understand how we each individually learn new vocabulary, right? Am I better at certain words than other words? Do longer words cause me more difficulty than shorter words? Maybe cognates are easier, things like that. And this platform uses AI to analyze all of that in your learning process. So that's quite interesting. Okay. Let us know in the chat as we're going along if you have also worked with other platforms that have helped you with vocabulary. In any case, we can work with chatbots like ChatGPT and Gamma and Copilot and all of those to also work with vocabulary. But it may be better to use these types of platforms because they're specifically designed for vocabulary, right? So we want to take that into consideration. Okay. Now we're going to look at each of the 4 skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and see some platforms that isolate that skill, that work specifically on that skill. Okay. AI for listening. So the first one that we're going to look at is one that I think many teachers are already familiar with, because I have heard teachers talk about this one. So it's worth mentioning. It's called Youglish. And as you can see from the image here, it looks a lot like YouTube. It has a similar format and interface because it's based on YouTube. So what does this platform do? This platform provides learners with real people, not actors or AI voices, using the target word or phrase in different contexts with different speeds and different accents. And how does it do that? It pulls videos from YouTube that have that particular word in it, or phrase, or sentence, or whatever the case is, right? It's great for practicing tricky words, like, for example, words that might be difficult for your students to understand or to produce: schedule, thought, throughout, all of those words that are spelled similarly but are pronounced quite differently: though, through, thought, etc. So to test this, I put in, as you can see in the image perhaps there, I put in the word category, because I've noticed that here in Ecuador, my students often pronounce this word incorrectly. Often they will say category or category with TH. So I put in this word, and as you can see, it says underneath, it says how to pronounce category in English, 1 out of 32,919 examples. So if I go to play this video on the screen, the program already has the video set at the precise moment where the word is said. I don't need to search the whole video. I can just push play, and that is the exact sentence that I need to hear. Yeah. So this is really great. And you as teachers, with this AI platform, we can assign tasks like, for example, search the phrase "by the way" and find 3 different intonations. Bring one into class to share, because maybe someone says, "by the way," like this intonation, or say, "by the way." That sounds different. Maybe they have different pragmatic intentions. So we can do different activities also, having our students work with this, which is free, and have them use it to really learn new things about the language and get authentic material. Yeah. Okay. So I'm reading through your comments. Yes, thank you for those of us who are still joining us. Karen says, I like writing, but I use Grammarly to correct it in an academic level. Absolutely, yes. Grammarly is one of those platforms, AI platforms, we can use for writing specifically. I don't talk about it in this particular presentation because I think many people already know about that one, but that's definitely another tool that we have. Alfredo says, Youglish, it's amazing. Alfredo, I'm glad that you like this program, that you've used it before, and I encourage other teachers to also play around with these. Try them, play with them. This is how we get to know them better. We don't need exact instructions. We experiment with these platforms and we figure out a lot of features about them. Okay. On to the next one. So we're sticking with listening for now. And another platform that we have is ListenWise. As you can see up there, the title as well as the web address. ListenWise, I didn't include an actual description here because the screenshot that I took of it is so complex and has so much in it that I couldn't take up more space on the slide with it, with text. So as you can see here, this is quite personalized. First of all, it always greets you with your name. And then it has different things. So we have my lesson feed, and your lesson feed can be constructed by you, or it can be automatically constructed based on the things that you have been doing in this platform, right? We have some tasks that we as teachers, we can assign to our students, or they can get assigned to us randomly based on what we input into the system, saying, I want practice with this, 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 and this. Yeah. And then you could see here also on the right side, we have a resource center. And we could see some of the things that it often offers. For example, listen to a podcast, explore content, create classes, and enroll students. So again, this platform has like an LMS component, right? Where we can actually create our own classroom with our students in the classroom and assign specific listening material to them with specific activities that this platform will help us create based on the listening material that we want them to do. We can assign a podcast to them. We can review student work on this platform. So this one is specifically designed for teachers to be able to use to practice the listening skill. So you can specifically upload or link specific videos that you want them to watch, listen to, podcasts, whatever, or the platform, you can input information. My students are this level. This is what I want them to work on. And it can help you to generate appropriate material for them with corresponding exercises. So it's really a great tool for teachers, especially, to be able to work with listening with your students. Thank you, those of you who are commenting. Yes, thank you very much. Liliana says, great info. I'm glad you find it useful. Thank you. Okay. I think that in my research on AI and discovering many different platforms and tools, I think that the most common tool is one focused on speaking. I'm sure that you guys have gotten interrupted in your YouTube videos when you're watching them with some type of chat bot, some type of robot looking thing that says, I will help you with your English. And then you have a conversation with it and everything like that, right? Okay, that's fine. But a lot of those chat bots are not free. That's precisely why they advertise them. They can be quite expensive. So I'm offering you some free alternatives, or at least free versions, that platforms that offer free versions to work with speaking. Okay, so the first one I'm going to show you is SpeechLing. It's called SpeechLing. And as you can see, here's a screenshot of some of the features of it. And this is an AI-supported language coaching platform that focuses on speaking and pronunciation through shadowing, repetition, and recording exercises. Record yourself repeating sentences, answering prompts, or practicing conversations. The platform then provides, like many others, instant AI feedback on pronunciation, fluency, intonation, and word stress, and in the free plan, a limited amount of actual human coach feedback each month, which is great because, as we know, AI is wonderful. It can do a lot of things, but it's not a human. So to get human feedback is also important. In the free version, it's very limited. In the pro version, you get unlimited human feedback, but at least there's some component of human feedback. Now, in the description, I mentioned that repetition is one of the features of this platform. And normally, if we go back to language acquisition theory, we say, wait, repetition is not necessarily good for acquisition. We don't just repeat and repeat and repeat to acquire language. No, but repetition can be beneficial for the speaking subskill of pronunciation. Why? Because pronunciation is actually, in large part, a physical skill, right? We need to make our muscles in our mouth move in a certain way. And we need to create what we call muscle memory. Muscle memory is when our brain connects with our muscles here, in this case, and remembers how it feels, for example, to pronounce the TH, the interdental sound in English, right? We create muscle memory. And how do we create muscle memory? Through repetition. So we have to pronounce it several times, like say this, these, this, this, this. So you can create that muscle memory through the repetition. So repetition is not a bad thing, at least as far as pronunciation goes. So this is good that we practice this on this platform. Okay. Here's another example of AI for speaking. And this one is called Elsa Speak. I think that maybe some of you have used this before or are familiar with it, have heard of it. elsaspeak.com. As you can see, the interface of this platform is quite friendly. It's quite user friendly. It has nice colors, and that sometimes makes a big difference for us, right? It kind of makes us more motivated to use these things. So this is specifically to also work on speaking, and this AI shows which sounds are incorrect that you're producing, with color-coded visual feedback, which is unique from the other platforms. So if I pronounce something correctly, it shows up green on this platform. Obviously it records your speech, and it says, oh, ding, you got it correct, it's green. If it's close to the pronunciation, but not quite, it will show up yellow. And if it's the wrong pronunciation, your words will show up red. You see? So this is an easy way to visually see if I'm pronouncing things correctly. This platform also pinpoints exact sounds that learners struggle with. Like what? What are some of the sounds that your students have trouble with? Let's think about it for a moment. When your students try to produce English, what are some of the particular sounds that are difficult for them? I can think about my students, and I think that the TH sound is difficult. I think that a lot of the vowel sounds are difficult in English. Yeah. So this platform focuses specifically on that, which is good, because sometimes our students, especially in the case of vowels, sometimes they have a lot of difficulty, and maybe they don't even hear exactly what vowel sound is not produced correctly. So through this platform, we can help them to identify the specific sound that doesn't sound native-like, let's say. It encourages more natural and conversational delivery, which is good because this aligns with a communicative approach to language teaching, right? Because we're teaching natural conversational language, and it tracks improvement over time with scores on pronunciation. So this platform focuses largely on pronunciation. So I thought it was just a very cute and fun platform to play with. So I encourage you to check this one out. Hello, Santi. Thank you for joining us. It's okay that you're late. Better late than never. That's cool. Okay. Another platform that we have for speaking is called VoiceTube. So this one also looks a lot like YouTube because it is linked to YouTube. It's called VoiceTube. So what can we do with this particular platform? We can record ourselves saying video lines. So if I watch a video and I want to say a line that was said in the video, we can record that. And then AI compares the learner's speech to native models, scoring pronunciation accuracy. So that's the important component of AI here, is how it's able to take what it receives from the non-native speaker and compare it to a native speaker. There's daily or weekly speaking tasks where learners can record short responses, and it's particularly good for practicing intonation, rhythm, and conversational flow. Yeah, so notice that a lot of these speaking platforms don't focus really highly on grammar, although a lot of them do have the capacity to correct grammar, but they don't necessarily focus on that. And this is interesting because, again, in a communicative approach, we focus more on fluency and the ability to communicate ideas and not so much on accuracy, right? So these platforms align very well with a communicative approach to language teaching. Okay, moving on to another skill, which is reading. If we want our students to work on reading, we have a platform called Read Theory, and it's readtheory.org. So as you can see here, we have a little screenshot of an example of a reading, or at least an introduction to a reading called Vet Emergency. So this is an adaptive reading comprehension platform for English learners specifically. And this is important because for me, it was sometimes difficult to find AI platforms or tools that are specifically for English language learners. Many of them are created for native English speakers, which to a certain extent is interesting because it provides authentic content, but at the same time, it doesn't always focus on what our learners need to focus on, but these do. So in this one, this is used in EFL classrooms worldwide. So learners will take a short diagnostic quiz at the beginning, and then the AI will assign them texts, reading texts for them that are at the right level for our students. And this is also very important because if we give our students very complicated texts, what happens? They immediately become overwhelmed and they're like, nope, I can't do this, right? And they shut down. So if we have a platform that helps us to give our students real texts, but that are at their level, it will ease their anxiety about reading and make it easier for them to be able to process the text, right? The passages are followed by comprehension questions that check inference, vocabulary and context, and main ideas and the responses. And again, this is teacher controlled. So you guys can set up a classroom. You could have students enter on their own. You don't need to set up a classroom. You don't need to, but you have that opportunity to do that, which makes things more organized and links these platforms better to your class. Yeah. Okay. Yes, thank you. Maritere says that's really helpful so students won't get frustrated. Exactly. They're easily frustrated by reading in general, and especially if the reading's too difficult. This platform helps us to give readings that are at the appropriate level for our students. Okay. This is another one where we have basically, again, we have a lot of different characteristics on this one. It has a lot of different real articles that are also simplified to the level of the students. We have an onboard checklist. We have different things that we can take a look at here. Again, this is highly teacher oriented because we can use this as an addition to our class. We can even create assignments, have the assignments graded on these platforms, but they're specifically for reading. They focus specifically on reading, the skill of reading. So if we want to work on this skill, I really recommend that you guys decide which of these platforms works best for your reality and you incorporate it in your class as a way for students to work on the skill of reading because they're very teacher friendly. Okay. Moving along, writing. The last skill we're going to look at is writing. Now, like Karen mentioned in the chat earlier in this webinar, we have Grammarly, for example. Grammarly is a very popular tool that is used. We've all heard it advertised. We've heard about it, and I'm sure many of us have worked with it to fix our grammar in our writing. That's fine. That's okay. But this tool that I'm going to show you right now is particularly interesting because it focuses on the process of writing, not just the final product or fixing my grammar. And I like that a lot because if we want to ensure that our students are going through the writing process and that they are producing their own material and their own original writing, we should try to work with AI tools that help them in the steps of that process and not just in the final product correcting their grammar. Okay, so this one is called Write and Improve. And as you could see in the screenshot, what's really good about this one is that you can choose from the beginning what level of writing we're working with, what level of students, right? So we have beginner, intermediate, advanced. We even have business down here. So for example, me being a non-native Spanish speaker, I know that in the context where I live, which is Quito, Ecuador, sometimes I have to write a business letter. And even though I have studied Spanish for years and I have lived in the Ecuadorian context for 13 years, sometimes I'm still nervous when it comes to writing a business letter. I still feel that I don't have all the tools in Spanish to do that in the most appropriate way, right? So if you, for example, as an advanced English speaker, feel you want to develop your writing on a business level, you can also use this for your own benefit. It's not only for your students, but also for yourself, right? So we create a profile in here. We input some information about our level and things like that. And the platform, once again, helps us through the process. So here we have several different prompts that the platform offers us to write about. So for example, we can see as in the beginner part, we have an email, a postcard, a story at the beginning level. Then here we, on the intermediate, a letter, an essay, different types of essays, right? Persuasive essays, descriptive essays, etc. And it helps us through the process of writing. So as we're writing it, it supports us to improve our writing. Now, this is really good. It's produced by Cambridge. So this is an institution that has history in language teaching. And I think it's a really, really interesting platform for you to explore. Okay. This one I thought was so interesting and so fun that I had to include it. So nowadays, I think since the pandemic, we've probably realized that the world is smaller than we once thought, right? That we all can be in constant communication with all the tools that we have now. It's easy to communicate with people around the world. So why not take advantage of the technology that we have to do that? I remember when I was a kid, way back, when I was before even being a teenager, and I had my first Spanish class, my teacher was talking about having pen pals in Mexico, but literally pen pals, where you take your pen and you write a letter to someone in Mexico, and you send the letter and they send a letter back, right? The old-fashioned way. Well, now we have pen pal schools through AI, which is really fun and free. And it's a great opportunity for you to be able to hook your students up with native speakers of English somewhere else in the world. So you can see all these flags here, right? What is this exactly? This is a global writing and project-based learning platform where learners collaborate with peers worldwide on writing tasks and cultural exchanges. So this is good because it's a tool where they can build friendships internationally, but they're also collaborating together to create some type of project. So for example, it occurs to me, talking about particular food from your city. What is a typical dish from your city, right? You can hook up with a school, for example, in my hometown in Chicago, in the United States, and have the students there talk about particular specific dishes that are common or that are most popular in Chicago, like, for example, deep dish pizza, Italian beef sandwiches, etc. And then you, for example, in Lima or in Buenos Aires or in Quito or in Asunción or in wherever you are, also to write about specific foods that are very common in your city, things like that. So not only are you collaborating, writing, but you're also learning, and there's a huge cultural component here as well, which is great. Yeah. So learners join projects, and for example, topics like global cultures, the environment, social issues, depending on what's appropriate for the age of your students, right? They read short English texts and then write responses, reflections, or essays. And their writing is shared with peers or their pen pals from other countries who give feedback to them and respond. Another important part of this particular platform is that it makes the language more real for our students. And I think giving it a personal touch, like communicating with real native speakers somewhere else that are their age, that are their peers, makes the language that much more real to our students, makes it more valuable. It makes them feel the language more now that it's associated with someone that they have contact with, right? So there are a lot of benefits from using a platform like this one. So I really hope that you guys will take a look at it. Santi says, great, I will invite my students to send text so they practice the L2. They can talk about different topics. Absolutely. Good. Okay. Here, because of time, unfortunately, I mean, we could give a whole semester-long course on AI and all of these platforms, but because of time, I just list right here some of the more popular and more common AI apps or platforms for kids. When I say kids, I mean these platforms are designed for kids from about 3 years old until about 10 or 12 years old, depending on the platform. So we have Dinolingual, Duolingo Kids, Fun English by StudyCat, Buddy AI, and then we have BrainPop ELL. All of these platforms, what do they have in common? That they are specifically designed for children. So they involve cartoons, they involve a lot of drawings, they involve gamification, songs, videos, things that really catch kids' attention. And obviously, they make the language digestible for the children as well. We should make language digestible for everyone, all ages, when we're teaching, right? But these are particularly geared towards children. So if you teach younger learners, you can take a look at some of these. Each one of them has their own free version. So you can use the free version as far as it lets you go, and you can experiment with these platforms for your younger learners. Okay. To wrap up today's webinar, I want to mention some tips for their use. Yes, Karima asks in the chat, are these for free? All of the tools and platforms and apps that I have presented in today's webinar, every single one offers a free version. A couple of them are completely free, but most of them only offer a free version and then a paid version. Some of them are limited time, some of them are limited features, but they all have a free version. Yes. Okay. So some tips for AI use. Just like we mentioned in last month's webinar, we have to remember that AI is not foolproof. It is not perfect. It makes mistakes. It does things wrong. So we need to keep this in mind every time that we work with AI. If we're designing classes, if we're getting information, if we're planning, it can make mistakes, right? Remember that it's not a human. We're not going to get the exact same things as we would get from a human. It's a tool, not a be-all, end-all. What do I mean by be-all, end-all? I mean, it is not the absolute solution to everything. It does not do everything for you. In order to get the most out of AI, we need to be smart about how we interact with it. So it's not that AI is going to magically improve your English for you or magically plan all of your classes and do everything for you. That's not how it works, right? So we can use it as a support, but we can't use it as the ultimate tool to do everything for us, right? Incorporate it in your lessons as a component or step of the process. AI is here to stay. It's not going to disappear. Our students will use AI for different reasons, sometimes academically honestly, and sometimes academically dishonestly, right? But if we as teachers can take it upon ourselves to help our students to understand how to use AI effectively and honestly, then we have a better chance of getting the most out of it, right? So let your students work with AI, but set some clear rules. Okay, I'm going to let you use the AI platform, write and improve for this process, but I do not want you to use a chatbot to create your paragraph. I want to see the steps of you creating it, but you can use AI to generate, for example, some ideas, or to have very clear rules about what students can use AI for so that they use it in an advantageous way and an honest way. It's very difficult to catch plagiarism from AI at 100% certainty. As of today, it is still very difficult. Sometimes if you ask ChatGPT, for example, did AI create this? It will say, yes, it did, when I know for a fact that I created it myself and it's not AI, and vice versa. Sometimes you'll ask, did AI create this? And they will say no, when AI actually did create it. So the more that we can monitor the process, especially in the case of writing with our students, the more control we have over the use of AI, the appropriate use of AI. Okay, and lastly, AI can help us but not replace us. That's the fear of many teachers, and not only teachers, but many professions around the world, saying, is AI going to replace me? Is it going to replace me? It's not going to replace us. There's nothing that replaces the human quality of teaching, right? But it is a good tool that can really help us a lot to enhance our classes. Manuel says in the chat, you can catch plagiarism if you know your students' performance in class. Absolutely. I think this is a very important comment. Thank you, Manuel. Yes. If I know a student in my class is not capable of writing a complete sentence in English without a mistake, and suddenly they produce a page-long essay that is flawless, we can assume, we can guess that they might have committed plagiarism, but it's very difficult. That's a very sensitive topic. It's very difficult to accuse a student flat out of committing plagiarism, but it's true. We can use that to gauge whether or not perhaps a text could be AI generated. Okay. So that would end today's webinar. I just want to close with a quote from Fei-Fei Li, a Stanford professor, who says, AI is going to change the world, but it's not magic. It's us, humans, who make the choice about how it's built and used. That's why I emphasize that there's a very important human component in AI, that we need to interact with it in an efficient way to get the most out of it. It can be a wonderful tool, but we have to be smart about how we use it. So thank you very much for joining us today. Please don't forget to join us on the Zoom session in a few minutes. The link is on the Facebook page, so feel free to join us. We can continue talking about this and related topics in the Zoom session. I appreciate all of you and your attendance today. Your comments are wonderful. Thank you so much, teachers, and I'll see you again next month. Take care. Bye.